Hello, boys and girls. Thank you for joining me for another book with Dan the Storyman. And today we're going to read a very nice book about the invisible boy, the importance of being kind, written by Trudy Ludwig and illustrated by Patrice Barton. I hope you enjoy this book as much as I did reading it. Can you see Brian, the invisible boy? Even Mrs. Carlotti has trouble noticing him in her classroom. She's too busy dealing with Nathan and Sophie. Well, there's Nathan and Sophie. Nathan and Sophie look like they're having problems, but there right in front is a boy that you can hardly see. And that's Brian. Can you see him? Nathan has problems with Mrs. Carlotti calls what Mrs. Carlotti calls volume control. He uses his outside voice inside too much. Sophie whines and complains when she doesn't get her way. Nathan and Sophie take up a lot of space. Brian doesn't. Well, there's Nathan and there's Sophie. And they're loud and a little crying, a little dramatic. And there's Brian, just quiet, standing there, almost invisible. When the bell rings for recess, Micah and JT take turns choosing kids for their kickball game. The best players get picked first. Then the best friends of the best players. Then the friends of the best friends. Only Brian is left, still waiting and hoping. There's all the kids getting picked for kickball. There's Brian. Oh, pick me. And there's Brian all by himself, hoping to get picked. JT glances in Brian's direction and just as quickly looks away. We've got enough players for each team, he tells the others. Let's play ball. Is that very nice? They forgot all about Brian. Brian just walks away. How sad. In the cafeteria, Madison and her friends talk about her birthday party. The rope swing over the pool was awesome, said JT. Yeah, so was the water slide, adds Fiona. That was the best pool party ever. I'm so glad you guys had fun, says Madison. Everybody did have fun, except for Brian. He wasn't invited. Oh, there's everyone. Had a fun time at the party. But there's Brian, eating his lunch quietly. He wasn't even invited to the party. That's not nice. At choosing time, while the other kids play board games and read, Brian sits at his table doing what he loves to do best. He draws fire-breathing dragons scaling tall buildings, space aliens locked in intergalactic battles, greedy pirates digging for treasure, and superheroes with the power to make friends wherever they go. Oh, look at the dragon up there on top of the building. And he's roasting a marshmallow for that guy. And there's an alien and a pirate. And oh wow, that superhero looks a lot like Brian. Hi friend, have a cookie. Brian just wants a friend. He's a good artist. On Monday morning, Mrs. Carlotti introduces Justin, a new student, to the class. Brian smiles shyly at him. Some of the other kids sneak looks at Justin, trying to figure out if he's cool enough to be their friend. They haven't quite made up their minds yet. Oh, look, it's a new boy. His name is Justin. Some kids are looking at him, but Brian's looking and smiling at him. Doesn't Brian look nice? Brian looks like he wants to be his friend. Brian's a nice boy. At lunch, Madison and JT watch Justin eat with chopsticks. What's that? Asks Madison as she points at Justin's food. It's bulgogi. What? Bulgogi. It's Korean barbecue beef. My grandma made it for me. It's really good. Do you want to try some? There's no way I'm going to eat bulgogi, says someone not very nice. And the kids laughed at Justin. All of them, that is, except Brian. He sits there wondering which is worse, being laughed at or feeling invisible. Look, there's Justin eating his food, and his food's a little different than the other kids. And they're laughing at him because his food's different. But there's Brian thinking, it's not nice to laugh at people's food or people that are different. The next day, when Justin goes to his cubby to put away his backpack, he notices a piece of paper with his name on it. It said, Justin, I thought that the bulgogi looked good. From Brian. Look, there Justin is, getting a note that Brian left for him, and there it is. Brian made a picture saying, yummy, I want to try some of that food. Isn't that nice of Brian to write that note to Justin? At morning recess, Brian finds a piece of chalk on the ground and starts drawing away. Justin comes up to him and says, You're Brian, right? Brian said, Yeah. Thanks for the note. Another boy called Emilio, says, Hey, Justin! Hey, you want to play some tetherball? You're up next. Justin says, I gotta go. By the way, that's a really cool drawing you're drawing on the ground. Well, that's really nice. Justin went up to Brian, said thanks for the note, and he said, look at that cool drawing. It looks like a dragon that Brian drew on the ground. He said, good job. Isn't that nice? That boy Justin's really nice. Back in class, Mrs. Carlotti asks the kids to team up in 2s or 3s for a special project. The kids scurry around the room to pair off. Brian heads towards Justin. I'm already with Justin, said Emilio. Find someone else. Brian looks at the floor, wishing he could draw a hole right there to swallow him up. Justin says, Mrs. Carlotti said we can have up to 3 people in our group. We're only 2. Come on, Emilio. Let's work with Brian. Okay, I guess. There's Brian wanting to be on Justin's group, but Emilio's like, I want to be with him. And Brian feels terrible, but look, they're going to work together now because Justin said he wants Brian to be with him. Look, he's getting some color to him. He's not so invisible anymore. Oh, I'm so happy for Brian. Mrs. Carlotti gives the class directions for the project. Your assignment is to work together to write a story about what you see in that photograph. Use your imagination and have fun. She's showing a photograph of city buildings. Whoa, cool, said Emilio. What kind of people do you think live in a house like that? I don't know, but I bet Brian could draw them to go to draw pictures that would go with our story, said Justin. Brian smiles as he takes out his lucky pen. Ooh, look. See that pretty picture that Mrs. Carlotti has of all the buildings? And they're going to work together. And Justin knows that Brian is a good artist and he's going to draw pictures. It's going to be great. I can't wait. Oh, look at all the fun they had. Drawing pictures, cutting stuff out. Ooh, look at this. Look, there they are working together. And look at all the pretty pictures. And they have hats and everything. That's awesome. They did great. Look at that great work they did together. The crooked story was made up on the spot. They made a cool story. Maybe, just maybe, Brian's not so invisible after all. Oh, look it. There's Emilio and Justin and Brian, and Justin saying, "Hey, you want a cookie?" And there Brian is. He's not invisible anymore. He said, "Thanks." Isn't that nice? What a wonderful book that is, called The Invisible Boy. We should try to be kind to each other, try to be friends, because everyone needs a friend, and us to be kind to them. Thank you for joining me, Dan, the story man, to read this book today. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, learning about Brian, the Invisible Boy. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me today for this book, and I hope you have a great day. Toodaloo, ta-ta, and have a great day. Bye-bye.